Your retirement is at risk if you fall for the stocks are a hedge against inflation fallacy. Ah, it's so flippin' frustrating. How many people are going to do this? All right, so I just want to side note. I'm so appreciative of you all being here and being as part of this community. I could not be able to do this obviously without you because I have to get paid to pay the bills, man. YouTube pays, some of you guys pay, and just by watching it, you're paying YouTube, or YouTube is paying me for you to be here. So I cannot stress how grateful I am to you. Because look, when I was working my crap little job, I had spreadsheets, articles on top of articles on top of spreadsheets, but I couldn't say anything. I had to freaking bottle them up. I couldn't use them in anything. Corporate America says you can't use that unless we approve it. And you're like, well, can you approve it? No, we got other people. Like, who are these other people? Maroons who just freaking spout the company line. I hated it. So I appreciate you being here. I would encourage you to join my locals channel because locals, you can post stuff on your own on my local for $5 a month. Not only do you have to listen to what your old buddy Josh says, you can post stuff on there as well. $5 a month. Every Friday at 4 p.m. I do a live stream solely for locals. When I get a certain amount of subscribers, I think it's 50 or something like that, I'll do more live streams because they only let you do one live stream a month, one live stream a week until you have a certain amount of subscribers. So let me show you why I love locals. Check this out. Oh, the Viva Barnes locals. I'm also on Michael Yon. Some of these guys. Mostly I just look at Viva Barnes because there's just so much great information here. And here's Doc Palladay posting stuff. All kinds of oh man, I love this dude. There's so many people posting stuff that's freaking I love it, man. And if I just want to, so I posted this just on their locals because I think I pay $10 a month for their locals. Mine's $5 a month. So I posted this. Let's see if we got any, because I'm sick of the anti-conservative bigots for Social Security, anti-Social Security bigots of the conservatives, if that makes sense. So I got 7 votes. So I posted this video here on YouTube and I posted on locals, and we got 16 links and 15 comments, which is good. And I said, look, I'm deliberately using the acronyms because so many anti-Social Security conservatives have no idea what the hell they're talking about. And so I posted this poll right here. Got 7 people voted on it so far. I'm not sure yet. Anyway, so that's the kind of stuff you can do. Now, if you just want to look at what the Viva Barnes and those guys post, they post stuff all the time here too. So they got that lady, Allison Morrow, Kyle Rittenhouse. They got their lunchtime live reading rant, and other stuff. It's such a great community. I love it. And you can join my community, and I'm not sure I'll ever be as big as Viva Frey and Barnes because they're pretty big. But hey, it doesn't matter. We don't need to be big. We just need to be effective. And then you can also just go down in the link and buy me a cup of coffee. My man Jimmy bought me a cup of coffee the other day, which I've used for no decaf because I'm getting rid of no calf. I'm getting rid of calf so I can keep so I don't have as many heart. Whatever it is, like you get a little bit of uncomfortableness in your heart. You know what I'm talking about. All right, so here we go. This is from Dateline, 1978, May 1978. And it's science because it's done in by academics. Challenging the popular market view of stocks as an inflation hedge. A new study just published in academia may go a long way in putting into perspective the perennial arguments about investing in stocks and bonds staying ahead of inflation. Perhaps even more important, the study data sharply challenges the prevailing wisdom based on other academic studies that long-term returns on stocks have averaged 9.9% a year. Where do we get those long terms? Well, we got Roger Ibbotson from the University of Chicago, who published a study last year. This is 1974, whatever it was. This 1977. He published a study in 1977. Which has received wide acceptance in the financial and academic communities because he's at Chicago, and Chicago's where all the greatest minds are. It placed nominal average returns between 1926 and 1976 at 9.2%. Nominal means before inflation. Their inflation average for those 50 years was 2.3. So we take the 9.2 nominal, subtract by the 2.3% inflation, you're getting basically a 7% real return on stocks from 1926 to 1976. Bonds would give you about 1.8% real. All right. Everyone says, oh, Ibbotson, he's so great. Yeah. All right, the latest study examines behavior of stocks going back to 1910. Ibbotson was 1926. Don't know why they used 1926. I actually did some research on that. I found out kind of why, but I forgot what it was now. It wasn't anything like, oh, that makes sense. You're like, okay. And you could say cherry picking much. I don't know. The latest study examines the behavior of stocks, bonds, and inflation back to 1910. Authors of the study are Robert Soldovsky over at Iowa University. That's just an agricultural school. It's not University of Chicago. And then this guy, Dale Max, a professor of finance at Governor State University. And no one even knows what that is. So Chicago versus Governor State or Iowa. Come on. We're going to go with Chicago because they're so smart. They're an Ivy League in the Midwest. Easily the most surprising result of the study is that showing from 1910 to 1976, the nominal return for stocks and bonds without adjusting for inflation averaged less than 5% a year. In real terms, after adjustment for inflation, the authors found the annual return on both securities was less than 2%. Stocks gave us 1.62% real return adjusted for inflation. Bonds gave us 1.24 when we're using 1910 to 1976 as opposed to 1926 to 1976. The inclusion of the study back to 1910 obviously adds a new dimension to the analysis of long-term rates of returns and suggests that calculations over a shorter period of time, over 50 rather than 67, may have overstated investor experience. You think? There's another important difference in the methods. While Ibbotson just used the S&P 500 and whatever they used for bonds, because it really wasn't a bond index back then, Soldovsky and Max measured investment returns of actual bonds, of actual stocks, actual preferred stocks as well. The common stock component consisted of the 100 stocks having the highest total market value at the start of each decade. And this is what they found. And I literally just put this in my own spreadsheet. Annual real investment returns from 1910 to 1919. Government bonds lost 6% a year net of inflation. Inflation was 8% a year. All right. So that means government bonds average 2% a year, and net of 2% nominal, net of inflation is negative 6%. Oh, high-grade prefers lost 4% a year net of inflation. Low-grade prefers lost 15% a year net of inflation. High-grade common stock. What? Inflationary periods, 1910 to 1919, high-grade common stock did just as bad as bonds, government bonds? Low-grade common stock did worse. What? That's impossible. Stocks are a hedge against inflation. Oh, it gets even worse. The worst decade at all for real returns, 1910 and 1919, inflation averaged 9.1% a year. In real terms, bonds lost 5.69% a year. Preferred stocks dropped 7.28% a year. And common stocks lost 5.96% a year. The last 4 years of the decade experienced the greatest inflation, and real returns on each securities dropped about 14.7% a year. Isn't that nuts? So I'm just basically, so what I've done here is I've kind of used, and I didn't go out to I went to 10 basis points. Anyway, so let's keep going. I find that interesting. So now we're going to go to the inflationary periods, or the deflationary periods from 1910 to 1919 was bad for stocks and bonds. 1920 to 1922 was great. This is after the war, the deflationary periods. This is when we had a huge depression back then. But no one knew it was a depression because Silent Cow said, we're going to let the market take care of itself. We're not going to get involved. So it was horrible, but it didn't last as long as the Great Depression. It's horrible, though. James Grant's got a book on this. It's great. Government bonds averaged 12% a year, net of inflation, because inflation was negative. We had 6, point, that'd be what, point, that'd be, is that 6%? Yeah, there you go, 6%. What the hell is that? Is that 6? Yeah, 6%. So we had, 6%. So deflation was 6% a year. That's what I meant to say. High grade prefers average 15% a year net of inflation. High grade stocks average 15% a year net of inflation as well. Low grade common stock, what? Again lost money. Yikes. Government bonds We're within spitting distance of high-grade stocks in deflationary period 1920, 1922. In inflationary period, government bonds and high-grade stocks did the same. Interesting. So let's go to the stable period of 1923 to 1929. Right, the roaring 20s. Government bonds averaged 4% net of inflation. Inflation was basically hardly anything. High-grade stocks averaged 11%. Low-grade stocks averaged 12%. Low-grade prefers didn't do anything. And high-grade prefers averaged 7%. All right, so we can see right here from 1910 to 1929. That's 20 years time frame. Government bonds were down, up enormously, up. All right. Stocks, high-grade stocks, down, up, huge, up, huge. All right. Not too shabby, not too shabby. All right. Now that's for the stable periods. All right, let's keep going here. That's for the from 1923 to 1929. There we go. Now we're going to go back in the deflationary periods of 1930 to 1932, the beginning of the Great Depression. High-grade government bonds averaged 12% a year. High-grade common stocks lost 13% a year. Low-grade common stocks lost 37% a year, dudes. Price change negative 8% a year. Low-grade prefers got smoked. High-grade prefers did well. So basically, in deflationary times, bonds kicked butt. In inflationary times, bonds lost money, but so did high-grade stocks. Crazy. Stable periods are where you make your money in stocks, frankly. Look, you can see this is common stocks right here. High-grade common, we already talked about that. 1933 to 1940, high-grade commons. Low-grade commons, 1952 to 1964. But the deflationary periods, they got smoked. And in the inflationary periods of 1910 to 1919, they got smoked. Inflationary periods of 1965 to 1969, they got smoked. Isn't that interesting? The inflationary periods of 1941 to 1951, they averaged 2% net of inflation, whereas government bonds lost 5%. So I want to take my trusty calculator. I said, okay, we're going to put this into a spreadsheet. We're doing some, not money. Well, maybe we'll do some Monte Carlo, but not right now. But I said, okay, so if I retired in 1910, you see what I'm saying? And I'm getting freaking, actually, let's not even do retire. Let's just say we put $100,000 to work in 1910. And we're going to do present value. We're going to do 10 years. And we're going to do very high-grade stocks. We're going to be 6% a year, negative 6% a year is our interest. And we're going to do it for, 10 years? Yeah. We're not going to add any more money. Our future value is $53,000. All right, so now we take that, we make that a present value. And in 1920 to 1922, we averaged 15%. So that'd be 3 years, 3N, 15% positive, zero payment. Now we're at $81,000. All right, so 81, we'll make that our present value. All right, so 1923 to 1929. All right, so 1923 to 1929, we averaged 11%. That's for 7 years. Now we're back up to 170. So we're right here. We went from 100 to 170 over the course of those 20 years. All right, so 170 for stocks, high-grade stocks. And remember how they're doing it too, by the way, for high-grade stocks. This is the way it should be done. Is they're saying we are taking represents 100 stocks having the highest total market value, market cap. And that's what, if you look at the S&P 500 right now, is heavy, heavy tech, because the highest of market caps are tech stocks. And that's trends and momentum, and that could be used against you when the trends and momentum stop. It's a great thing when you're getting the run up, but when the trends and momentum turn, it could be a world of hurt. All right, so from 19, where are we at here? From 1929, we're at 170. All right, so now let's just go back to the next deflationary years, for we got 3 years right there of negative 13% a year. Yeah, so we're at 170. Actually, let's just do bonds real quick. Let me stop. You don't have to watch me do all this. End of 1930, the end of 1929, your bonds were worth $99,000. They just brought you back to even from where you started 20 years ago. Your stocks are 170. All right, again, this isn't without taking any money out, by the way. So 170 now, we're going to go into the Great Depression. Present value, we got 12, stocks are losing 13% a year. And that's for 3 years. So now we're at 111. Blank. And bonds now, we're starting at 99,000 is our present value, 3 years, and we're getting 12% a year. Now we're at 140, 139. Interesting. So now 1933 to 1940. Let's take a gander. I'll do that, and you don't have to watch me do that. All right, so you can see here at the end of 1940, this is 30 years in, your bonds are worth 218. Again, this is no distributions, and the distributions would even make it worse for stocks. And your stocks are at 190, all right? Yeah. So now if we go to the inflationary periods from the World War I or World War II, let's take a gander. So now at the end of 1951, stocks are at 236, bonds are at 123. All right, again, we started with $100,000 in 1910. All right, now the problem that we're going to have here, my friends, I don't think, do I have the paper? Hold on a second, let's see if I can. The problem that we're going to have is with that massive volatility of stocks, if you're pulling money out, and this is from a different paper that Saldovsky did, right here, securities as a hedge against inflation, 1910 to 1969. If you're look at the volatility that comes with the stocks. So this dotted line is high grade corporate stock. This is high grade preferreds, and that's bonds. Yeah, you can't have this. You can't have that. And then we come back to 2008, 57% decline in a stable inflationary year. 2001 and 2, there's 9, 11, 9, 12, 22% consecutively in a stable investment time. You can't, these are the blows you can't take. But I'm hedging against inflation, not if you're pulling money out. It just, so we can, I mean, I can do this till we're blue in the face and say, look, so we got stocks did better, bonds did better, bonds did better, stocks did better. And we can do this to I wonder if we can do also. Here's the S&P 500. We started with $100,000 in 1910. We're taking $5,000 a year adjusted for inflation, which means if there's deflation, we're taking less out. And again, I hate the CPI, but we're going to run with it. And you can see right here, we ran out of money. So 1910, we ran out of money right, where do we run out of money? 1930, right there, 1933. So we had money left until 1933 because we got destroyed. What's a deflation? But where's your hedge against inflation, man? I mean, where is it? I don't see any hedge against inflation. By the time 1919 rolled around, we're sitting at $68,000. We start with $100,000. Where's our inflation hedge? But Josh, you're taking money out. Well, that's the point about retirement. We're taking money out, 100%. All right, so if we just start in, I mean, we can do it any way we want, dude, but we can start in 1930. And this is just the S&P 500, by the way. So, you know, this Saldovsky didn't do the S&P 500, did the top, basically the S&P 100, if you will. So it started in 1930. We ran out of money when? In 21 years, at 5% a year. I mean, so there's, I guess what I'm trying to say, there's no hedge against inflation when you're pulling money from your portfolio. Now we can say, well, Josh, you could have been the same with bonds. I'm not sure if Daniel's thing will give us bonds in here. Let's see. Let's see if it does. If we can do bonds. Let's do. I thought I saw the 10-year in here someplace. Right there. I'm not quite sure. It'll give us bonds. All right, so let's start this in 1910. Let's see what was happening. Hold on a second. We're just going to do 1 month treasury bills. 30-day money, essentially. Taking $5,000 a year, 5% a year, adjusted for inflation, started 1930, and we ran out of money here in 1951. And again, what did the U.S. S&P 500 do at that point? S&P 500, right there. Ran out of money in year 50, and year 21. All right, so let's go back to 10-year Treasury, the 1 month T-bill, and we're gonna go back to let's go back to 1910. Might not. No, 1926. Let's just do 1926 and see what we come up with here. All right, so 1926, we ran out of bucket money in 1950, so 25 years later. All right, 1926 with the S&P 500. Dudes, I cannot stress. The enemy of your retirement isn't inflation. It's the freaking 2007 October to 2009 March 9th. It's a 19 freaking 2000. I think the decline started in March of 2000 and ended in October 2003. I think, if memory serves. 73, 74. You just can't have that, dudes. So here we never ran out of money in the S&P 500 if we took 5% a year and started in 1926. We came not close, but about $62,000. But I mean, come on, what's the likelihood of you staying put when you're down 44%? This right here, I cannot stress enough. This right here is the enemy of retirement. This right here is not. It's death by 1,000 cuts, but you'll be dead well before you bleed out if it's death with a death by 1,000 cuts. All right, anyway, and I have more to come on this. I really want to, because he's got such a good article in here that I really want to look at more so, because he dives into it. Well, let me just show you, and we'll be done here. So we go down to this right here. We can see during the stable periods, the stocks did better. This is stocks, stocks, stocks. Bonds did worse, right? But if you don't have stable periods and you get crushed like that, you're in a world of hurt, dude. And you'll notice the bonds never got crushed like that. Bonds never did. But you said no bonds. Yeah, I said no bonds before. I'm against that now because bonds are now different than they were 3 years ago. All right. Love your thoughts. We'll see you. Thanks for being here.